Papa Louie, called by his fans as just Papa, is a bit of an internet icon. With a chef's hat and coat, red apron, and bushy black mustache, he looks the part of the stereotypical Italian chef. But could any ordinary Italian chef travel between dimensions, battle against sentient food monsters, and manage at least 16 different restaurants across an entire country? Yeah, I didn't think so. From sushi and chicken to ice cream and tacos, Papa's culinary expertise can't be contained by any city border, nationality, or giant evil multi-dimensional onion. Papa's various adventures and franchise expansions have been ongoing since 2006 and have been cataloged mostly in the form of multiple Flash games made by Flipline Studios. But the restaurants Papa opens and the games that are made about them are only the beginning of the Papaverse. Before Papa Louie even existed, there were only two guys who met in college that were looking for fun animation work. Matt and Tony, the co-founders of Flipline Studios, decided to venture into game making, which brought us the iconic Flipline Studios game Papa Louie When Pizzas Attack in November of 2006. While not a game-aria, this was the internet's first introduction to Papa as a character and the world that he inhabits. After being sucked through a pizza box interdimensional wormhole, that's a weird sentence, Papa is tasked with fighting his way through a food-based alternate dimension called Munchmore. There are sentient pizza ingredients from tomatoes to onions, along with plenty of pizza monsters everywhere throughout the world, and Papa is the only man that can stop them and save the day. The game is a pretty straightforward platformer with coins, an item shop, and various level stages. While I ended up playing my first game-aria on cool math games, I did at some point earlier than that play When Pizzas Attack on my red translucent iMac G3, which really enhanced the gaming experience. Except for the fact that the game was so laggy on this beast that I couldn't even finish the first level. While Papa and his pizza legacy didn't really stick with me much after this first encounter, his next game would definitely be a more memorable experience. Papa's Pizzeria followed the theme of the first game, where the intro and downtime between levels are spent in the same restaurant. Except this time, instead of being teleported to pasta jungles and defeating pumpkins with a pizza paddle, Roy, Papa's nephew, takes over running the place and managing the business. The player plays as Roy and completes every step of the pizza making process, from taking orders, baking dough, and arranging toppings. Papa's Pizzeria would be the beginning of a new line of games, the game-arias. While Flipline didn't immediately only focus on the Papa series initially, the series quickly gained a loyal fanbase. Papa's Pizzeria wasn't the only pizza-making game out there, and it certainly wasn't the only cooking simulator either. But what it may have lacked in originality in its idea, it certainly made up for in its execution. Despite only having made 3 games with vastly different playstyles between them before Papa's Pizzeria, the quality, charm, and style was very apparent in Flipline's first game-aria. With different stations to maintain, a click-and-drag ticket system, and a unique and detailed order specific to each customer, Papa's Pizzeria was definitely one of the coolest games of 2007. And best of all, it looked like you were doing fractions if your teacher came around to look at your screen while playing at school, so it was the coolest of cool math games too. After the Pizzeria came the Burgeria in 2010, which followed the same mechanics as the first game as far as the tickets, orders, and stations went, except this time you were obviously in charge of cooking burgers. Flipline created yet another separate, unrelated game after the Burgeria was introduced, a Southwest-themed fighting platformer called Cactus McCoy that also gained a decent fanbase, but after that it was straight back to the game-arias. Papa's Taco Mia and Freezeria were both released in 2011, and please can someone validate my feelings in being annoyed that Taco Mia is the only game in the series that doesn't have a name ending in Ria? Thank you. The pattern continued on over the years with more restaurants and different foods being simulated, all with new cooking styles and customers being added along the way. Whether you like sweet, savory, fishy, or spicy, there's probably a Papa game that features a virtual food that's right for you. I'm pretty partial to the Pancake-aria myself. I also really liked the cooking class at the Kinsville Academy in Webkins, so clearly I have a thing for pancakes, I guess. I think there's something satisfying about the color of a perfectly cooked pancake, and of course, the sprinkling of whipped cream and various toppings on top also helps a lot. I mean, just look at those drizzle physics. I have a feeling it also has something to do with Prudence being a playable character, who's pretty reminiscent of all the other pink-loving, dog-carrying blondes I looked up to as a kid. As much as I'd love to break down all 16 of Papa's gamerias, if you're watching this video, there's a good chance that you already know all about the various cooking games of the Papaverse. They are the foundation of the universe, but aside from the fun of cooking and preparing, they don't offer too much in the way of lore. And of course, there has to be lore. With 16 different restaurant sims and 4 story-based spin-off games, it'd be silly to assume that there isn't more to the Papa story than serving tacos and pancakes. So the cooking games aren't much beyond that. Cooking games. At least, not at first glance. Beyond the pancake cooking and taco topping, there are some smaller details floating around the various gamerias that carry different references, storytelling aspects, and world-building elements, and it expands the Papaverse into something bigger than just a few restaurants. There are a few references to the different Papa's attack games, the spin-offs where sentient food attacks the Papaverse characters in an alternate dimension called Munchmore. I guess these references make sense considering that a majority of the game characters were either directly involved in the incidents or were even available as playable characters. The fact that these people casually make and wear interdimensional monster merch based on the various apocalypses that they've been through is kind of weird, but whatever helps you work through the trauma, I guess. There are also references to other Flipline games that are portrayed mostly through decorations like arcade game cabinets, posters, and t-shirts throughout the gamerias. And these references seemingly aren't just small nods to Flipline's other games. Papa and the rest of the world's inhabitants all live on a decently sized island that's actually adjacent to other Flipline game worlds. The island has cities mostly named after different foods or food puns, and is said to not exist within the confines of Earth or our known countries, despite Papa being named Italian, and this very confident commenter claiming that the Papaverse island is actually just Venezuela. Obviously. So all of that gives more nuance to the other series that are referenced in the gamerias, as well as creates a vast and pretty magical universe that the Papaverse characters live in, existing alongside other Flipverse worlds that include gunslinger southwestern cactuses and armored bipedal battle animals. While the restaurants themselves tend to operate as normal, the few strange ways that Papa finds to recruit new employees, the fact that he tends to abandon them right after hiring them, and especially the various incidents that keep happening because of a giant sentient onion, end up reminding us that the world isn't as normal as it may seem, even if fry cooking and customer service is about as mundane and regular as it gets. While the food-making aspect of the gamerias is clearly the most memorable part for the majority of players, what's arguably the next most memorable and recognizable from the series is the cast of characters that make up the Papaverse. And not only that they exist, but the fact that they look a little unconventional. Since we've covered that there are anthropomorphic donkeys and cactuses also existing in the Flipverse, these humans may not seem all that weird in comparison, but it's still hard to ignore their eggplant-shaped bodies, their soulless, empty circles for eyes, and entire lack of legs. There's also evidence to suggest that the babies in this universe look like this, so do with that information what you will. Aside from their unorthodox design, the characters and customers of the Papaverse are pretty varied, not only in size, shape, and age, but in personality. And the different styles and quirks that accompany each character, in addition to their eggplant torsos and the feet that are directly attached to them, and even their unique orders, are all what make the characters so memorable. From the very first Papa game, when pizzas attack, the characters that initially only lived above the pizzeria were there to populate and flesh out the world. With the evolution of the gamerias, though, the characters have somewhat taken on a life of their own, becoming the most popular aspect of the series among a lot of hardcore fans of the games. The unique and specific orders alone give each customer an extra bit of depth and personality, something that the devs themselves say that they keep in mind when assigning orders to customers for each new game. But beyond their orders and each customer's specific visual design, nearly every character that's appeared in a gameria also has their own flip deck card, a virtual trading card with a short biography and likes and dislikes. While some characters already stood out on their own, whether because of their cool clothes or their notorious mayonnaise obsessions, the flip deck adds even more depth to each character, all in a world that's mainly meant just to be about cooking and serving food. Each flip deck card purposefully leaves off a character's age and nationality, which the devs have explained is to keep them more ambiguous and essentially immortal to fit anyone's imagined development of their favorite character. Some of the most popular characters within the Papaverse range from expected to maybe a little bit less expected. Akari, for example, is pretty popular as she's been around since the second Gameria, Papa's Burgeria, has a memorable color scheme, and also has a cool motorcycle. Quinn, Roy, and Wally are also relatively popular for their unique roles in the universe, or just for being an old guy in a sweater vest that really loves fish. A less conventionally popular customer, though, would be someone like Sprinks the Clown, a relatively new and also slightly mysterious character that only appears in the mobile versions of the Gamerias. She doesn't have a flip deck card and only appears in a handful of games, so fans have created their own ideas of her traits and personality for her. And because a niche portion of the internet has an interest in killer clowns, there are a good few adaptations of an evil, spooky, scary Sprinks that are out there. I never really got behind the whole clown thing myself, but I do have to say that I really like her design and color scheme, even if it is a little different from a typical Papaverse character. Other strange or unusual characters include the X-twins, Zolo and Xandra, who were part of a cult of interdimensional gatekeepers. It has to do with these warp coins, it's a whole thing. Escaped on a hot air balloon before the cult was destroyed, and now just generally look like they're up to no good. They're also only 10 years old. The ventriloquist duo Boopsie and Bill, Boopsie is actually the non-puppet, Ninjoy, the not-so-secret ninja identity of Papa's niece Joy, each complete with separate flip deck cards, and Foodini, an in-universe, somewhat magical minigame show host that Papa fans are weirdly attached to, despite him having a pretty minimal role in the main games. There are a lot of other honorable mentions, but definitely too many to mention each one. To really hammer home the point that the characters are a big deal with Papa fans, each customer's order, from between different restaurants to holiday variants, are listed in each customer's Flipline wiki page. I assume that the main reason the orders are all so well cataloged is to use as a cheat sheet when playing the games, but I also have to assume that some people are actually just genuinely interested in finding out more about their favorite characters. I mean, how else would I be able to personally connect to Sasha if I didn't know that she loves berries and cream with her pancakes? Despite mainly existing to serve as customers and put in food orders, the rabbit hole of the over 130 different characters in the series goes deeper than what sprinkles they like on their cupcakes. Clearly, the fans of the Papaverse have some feelings towards the characters that inhabit their favorite games. And where there are expansive lists of characters and lots of fans, there will be dedicated fan communities, full of everything from fan art to fan fiction. There's a Flipline subreddit that's mainly used as a Papaverse community page, though most people use it to post memes, their own custom order tickets, or to share the various creative endeavors of the Papa Louie Pals mobile app. Papa Louie Pals is a sort of comic and scene creator where players can make custom Papa characters or use existing customers to set up in different poses, expressions, and backdrops. There are a good amount of fans that use the Pals app to create pretty normal things, from more memes to imagined in-universe bands or movies. The app is also pretty popular for creating Papaverse crossover characters of different franchises or real people, which is pretty interesting. However, without a, shall we say, traditional approach for creating different scenarios in the Pals app, some of these posts are kinda strange, especially for outsiders of the fandom. I will now present to you a peaceful montage of some of my personal favorite out-of-context Papa Louie Pals pictures. For the fans that aren't interested in order tickets and weird Pals posts, there's the official Flipline Studios website. The website has everything from the flip deck collection, merchandise, including physical trading cards of the flip deck, and even real-life recipes based on Papa's own culinary feats. The blog on the site alone is full of even more official Papaverse content, with a mini-series of mysterious transcripts about an explorer traversing the alternate dimension of Munchmore, and a showcasing of custom go-karts that appear in one of Foodini's minigames. Beyond the official content, though, the website has dedicated community sections that are a lot less official and about as freeform as it gets. The Flipline forum especially exists as a place for fans to talk about everything from their evil Sprinks headcanon to how they think each Papaverse character will die. The role-playing section is pretty straightforward, being used for fans to roleplay as different customers or just as themselves in different scenarios that might occur throughout the Flipverse. They range from gameria roleplays to totally unrelated storylines like surviving prison or living in Tornado Alley, of all things. I will admit that I was never a very big forum user myself, having only used a Webkinz forum for item trading back in the day, and even that kind of confused me, especially as an 8-year-old, so maybe I'm just out of the loop on forum etiquette and behavior. Let me know if this kind of stuff is typical in other forums, or if the Papa Louie fandom is just extra special. The fanfiction section is also pretty straightforward, though it surprised me that it's less full of romantic stories and more about headcanons, adventures, and fan-made backstories than anything. That, and a good amount of Total Drama Island crossovers. That isn't to say, though, that there aren't some weirder stories in the fanfiction forum, including this very riveting post that's meant to emulate the diary of Papa himself. Day 1. I only had 2 customers, and I overcooked Penny's order, and she cried. Day 2. I was quite cross when I got onto the Flipline forums and Adam was better than me. That's so unfair. Day 3. I was checking up on the Cooper and he was putting some yellow sprinkles on a pancake. Day 4. Mama died of mama-ness. I was very sad. Also, it turns out that Cooper was trying to poison Jojo. Day 5. I met Slobst today. He was very cool. He made me forget about Mama. Wait a minute. Cry, 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 cry. Day 6. Robbie demanded his own restaurant. I said no. Then, things got ugly. There are like 7 more chapters of this, but I will not subject you to that. Clearly, not everyone is a fan. But of course, even if romance isn't the most popular genre of Papaverse fanfiction, there are definitely still a good amount of fans who take it upon themselves to ship their favorite characters, or sometimes even ship them with themselves, like this person who admits that Papa was their romantic awakening as a child. I don't know how to feel about that. Character shipping is most popular in the official fan art section, and interestingly, given each character's flip deck details and personal backstories, there are even some confirmed canon relationships throughout the series. Alberto and Penny, the employees of Papa's Freezeria, are a pretty popular and official couple among fans, being affectionately named Penerto. There are other official relationships, but as far as a good amount of the fanfiction and fan art goes, it's more indulgent in imagined pairings than anything. Beyond romantic fan art, though, there's way more non-romantic fan art of standalone characters. Given that the art style of the Papa games is relatively simplistic, and each character's design highlights their key features and details, the original characters seem to serve as the perfect reference and inspiration for more imaginative, realistic, or sometimes self-indulgent pieces of fan art. Fan art of original characters or eggplanty versions of other popular characters are pretty common too, seemingly most created with the help of Papaverse bases, though not every piece of fan art fits the eggplant mold. The great Papa Louie himself tends to get a good amount of fan art made of him, which is to be expected considering he's technically the main character of all the games, and is relatively easy to capture the likeness of. But what Papa lacks in unique physical features, he certainly makes up for in character. He wields a pizza paddle like no other, selflessly saves the citizens of the Papaverse, and employs countless members of the community, all out of the kindness of his own heart. Or does he? There's been some somewhat mild controversy in the fandom around if Papa is actually as cool of a person as he might like everyone to believe. There's a pretty comprehensive video made by Chupo that goes into detail of how suspicious Papa and his supposed good deeds are, and I have to admit, when you put it all together like that, it does make him seem like the bad guy. He does employ the great citizens of the Papaverse, serves them delicious foods of varying cultures, and even sometimes hosts parties where he just gives away his stock for free. but looking into it a little more, it does seem like Papa, for the most part, seems to trick or even scam his employees into working for him, going as far as to borderline blackmail them by insisting they pay off damages to his restaurant through employment. There are also some other questionable parts to Papa, like how he's seemingly the only one who originates from outside of the Flipverse, being Italian, like how he found a secret sauce in an uncharted region, that same secret region that the X-Twins came from before it was destroyed, and that's responsible for controlling the interdimensional portals of the Flipverse. It's a whole thing. And Papa, being the cool guy that he is, an enjoyer of fun foods and unique flavors, just decided to call it Flavor X and added the questionable foreign sauce to his cupcake store as a topping. Definitely not suspicious at all. And definitely not extra suspicious when you find out that even with all of his supposed scheming and blackmailing, all of his customers just keep coming back because they love Papa's food too much to leave. But I'm here to set the record straight. The devs, Papa's creators themselves, say that even with his strange behavior and tendency to abandon his employees on the job, he only does this because he loves his customers and loves cooking so much that he can't imagine a better prize, or ultimatum, than working at one of his successful restaurants. He always means to return from his errands, and only has good intentions, wanting the best for his community. I don't know if I believe that at all. I mean, did Papa write this post himself? I'm personally on the fence about the great Papa's true intentions, but he does make some good games, so maybe I'll just give him a pass for all the hours I've wasted making his virtual food. I guess you have to decide for yourself if you believe he's truly innocent or not, even if he has a gravity-defying mustache and enough net worth to sue the entirety of the island for slander. Clearly, the current state of the Papaverse is very much alive and well, with a forum full of thousands of posts, a new mobile game area made as recently as 2022, and a new expanded PC version of Papa's Freezeria announced only last month, the first game to be available on Steam after the death of Flash. Given all of the various and expansive elements of the series, from an in-universe Guy Fieri and Mothman, to the strangely deep lore on the Flipverse altogether, there's so much more to the Papaverse than meets the eye. I'm personally excited to see what new characters, backstories, and tasty pancake drizzles the future of the Papa games has in store. A huge thank you to Kayla Geary, Bunzo, Dylan Webb, Johan Ake, Kevin Evans, Mark Kent, Paper Sam, Sarah, The Goomba Mattress, Unin Almondor, and the rest of my patrons for supporting me. I made you all of these big stacks of Papa's famous pancakes to say thank you. I hope you like blueberry.